The Shi No Numa Mysteries, Secrets, and Theories Iceberg? Let's go. Wonderwaff DG2 debuted. The Wonderwaff made its first appearance on Shi No Numa. Even though they had wanted to put it on Verrucht, they didn't have everything sorted out in time, so they held off and introduced us to it in Shi No Numa. Now, funny enough, looking back on a bunch of old forum posts, at first, everyone was very confused about the trailer. They saw the Wonderwaff in action and didn't know if it was a gun or what it was, and a lot of people even thought it was a trap, because we had already had the shocker trap, the lightning trap, electric trap, whatever you want to call it, so a lot of people just thought it was some weird version of that. But once people finally got their hands on it, they immediately loved it, even though there were a lot of people that weren't happy that it's a first come first serve and you can only get one out of the box. Ultimus debut. Shi No Numa also gave us the Ultimus characters, Dempsey, Nikolai, Takio, and Richtofen, and some of the first things we ever heard them say were actually in a trailer.
We're here. This is the place.
Finally, I was getting tired of Takio's rambling.
Shut up, Nikolai, and get your gear on.
And funnily enough, in one of the trailers, you can actually hear just the regular old Marines, who do not appear in this map, by the way, but you can still hear some of their quotes.
Hell yeah! Now that's just wrong!
And again, going back and looking at a bunch of old forum posts, it seemed like everyone started to gravitate towards Richtofen and Nikolai and liked them more than Dempsey and Takio.
Oh, didn't see you there. Before we continue with the video, make sure to use code CRAZY at GamerSubs. Get that 10% off. And if you don't, I'm going to drop kick your grandma right in the solar plexus. Back to the video.
The Flogger. The Flogger is another new thing that Shi No Numa introduced. It's a 750 point trap that will last for 30 seconds and kill any zombies or humans that run into it. Unless those zombies happen to be crawling or you're going prone, then you can just stealthily sneak your way right under it. But do beware, this trap is a god killer. Even if you have god mode on, the Flogger will still kill you. Zipline. The first ever zipline in zombies was also introduced in Shi No Numa, taking you all the way from the doctor's quarters to the center, and is going to cost you a whopping 1,500 points. Now nowadays, the zipline is mainly just seen as a gimmick and no one really ever uses it. I mean, like, why would you? But looking through a bunch of old forum posts, at first, everyone really liked it. People would praise it for helping them get out of a sticky situation or getting across the map a lot faster, and hell, even some people were writing strategy guides with this incorporated in it. Again, you gotta remember this, these weren't high round times. People were still getting to high rounds, but a vast majority of people were like getting to the teens and then dying. Peter McCain. Shi No Numa was also the first map that we really got introduced to the storyline and Peter McCain. Peter is the dead body that you can find in Spawn. He was also the guy that the original Marines in Verrucht were sent in to extract. And that's all I really have to say about him right now. We'll talk more in depth about him as we go farther down. High rounds. I believe this one is talking about just how insanely easy it is to get to high rounds on Shi No Numa. And there are a couple reasons for that. One, you actually have a solid wonder weapon in the Wonderwaff. Two, in World at War Shi No Numa, only 24 zombies will spawn in per round. So that means you just have to kill 24 zombies no matter what round you're on to advance to the next one. And with the wide open areas and the traps, it became very, very easy and fast to get to high rounds on this map, especially compared to like Verrucht, which also had the 24 zombie rule, but was a much more difficult map, and Derice, which does not have that zombie rule. So on Derice, more than 24 zombies can spawn in per round, and as you get to higher and higher rounds, you're gonna have to deal with more and more zombies. But Shi No Numa was right in that sweet spot. It had the wonder weapons, it had the traps, and was easy, and it still only had 24 zombies per round. Richtofen's Diary. This is the whole reason our gang goes to Shi No Numa, all to fetch Richtofen's Diary, which contained tons of research notes that he was going to use to end up defeating Samantha. Now, we really never got too many hints to the diary in Shi No Numa besides one little Easter egg, which we'll get to here in a minute, and really other than that, we don't have too many hints to it until much later in Zombies. But storyline wise, that's the whole reason they came here, was to fetch Richtofen's diary. Hellhound debut. Shi No Numa just introduced us to so many staples and zombies, and the Hellhounds were definitely one of them.
Oh, those don't sound like freak bags.
And when the map came out, everyone loved the Hellhounds, but was also absolutely terrified of them. And a lot of people definitely were struggling with them and begging people to give them advice on just how to deal with them. And if you've ever actually played Shi No Numa and had to deal with those Hellhounds, dude, the Hellhounds in World at War were just built different. Mystery Box Light. Another huge staple of zombies is the Mystery Box Light. If you ever want to know where the mystery box is, just look up in the sky and look for the bright light. This was first introduced in Shi No Numa, and even back then, everyone loved it. Instead of having to run around to each location to check, you can just look up in the sky and immediately figure out where it's at. Element 115 Meteor. In Shi No Numa, outside of the map, you can find a giant chunk of 115, and each character will have something unique to say about it.
I wonder if that rock brought those freak bags.
Oh, that rock! Must be where element 115 comes from.
I think the Red Menace would be interested in the space rock.
This rock is not of this place.
Now before Shi No Numa, 115 really wasn't too big of a thing, and Shi No Numa really laid the groundwork for it. And the community actually was pretty smart about this. There were plenty of people catching on to the numerous hints and the numerous Easter eggs relating to 115 and started piecing together things rather quickly. You gotta give the zombies community back then their credit where credit is due, because they were able to piece together a lot of zombies storyline implications with basically nothing. Achievements introduced. Shi No Numa also gave us achievements. It came with a bunch of them, such as Soul Survivor, where you have to reach around 15 in Shi No Numa without getting revived. Hammer Time, repair 200 window panels in Shi No Numa in one game. Weapon of Minor Destruction, kill only one zombie with a nuke. Big Baller, earn 75,000 points in Shi No Numa. Perkaholic, collect and have all 4 perks active in Shi No Numa. Big Brawler, kill 10 zombies in a row in Shi No Numa with your knife. It's a trap. Kill at least 1 zombie with 3 different traps. Fertilizer Man, kill 200 zombies in one game. Deadhead, kill 150 zombies by headshots. And last but not least, Dead Air, call for help please, which we'll probably end up talking about that one later down the list. The characters' bio info. With our set of new characters, we also got their character bios, which gave you a little bit of background information about every single one. Now, I'm not going to waste your time and read all of them, but they are very interesting, and I would say that if you've never read them, definitely go read them, because these bios describe our characters a little bit different than the ones we eventually come to know and love. They are a lot more sadistic in these bios. Dempsey was portrayed as a decorated Marine that really just wanted to shoot things. Nikolai was a high-ranking party member that may or may not have liked to kill his wives. Takeo was born into an influential family, and he also had a habit of murdering things. And in my opinion, Richtofen's is the most interesting because it definitely describes him a lot differently than the one we eventually know. Like in his bio, he also has another name that he goes by, The Butcher, because as it says in his bio, he was known affectionately as The Butcher to his victims as they scream in agony moments before he snuffs out their light. We'll talk more about each individual bio as we get farther down, but they are very interesting if you've never read them. Division 9. Storyline-wise, Division 9 is the group that was created to oversee the operations of Shi No Numa. They were to work together with Group 935 and, commit all sorts of atrocities. Now originally with World at War, Division 9 didn't exist, and the first ever actual mention of Division 9 wouldn't come until Black Ops 3. Rising Sun Facility. This is the actual name for the Shi No Numa area. Shi No Numa just means Swamp of the Dead, and obviously the Japanese are not going to call their facility Swamp of the Dead. The actual name that it went by was the Rising Sun Facility. Heads up. This is talking about the main Easter egg in Shi No Numa. Now, OG Shi No Numa in World at War, and also the ones that come after it in like Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 3, do not really have a main Easter egg, but the Shi No Numa version in Call of Duty Vanguard does. And Heads Up is the name of that main Easter egg, where an Allied Special Forces unit goes to the swamp to restore the memories of Syraxis the Shadow. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I'm more of a fan of Nazi occultism instead of all the stuff they tried to bring in later on, but that's just me. Shi No Numa huts. Shi No Numa is separated into 5 main areas. You got the spawn building, and then you have 4 huts that branch out. You got the storage hut, the comm hut, doctor's quarters, and the fishing hut. And each one will contain a perk and a set of weapons. And interestingly enough, Shi No Numa was actually the first all-original zombies map. The previous 2 zombie maps were basically just certain areas from campaign and multiplayer made into a zombie map. But Shi No Numa was kind of original. Even though it did take assets from campaign and multiplayer, the whole map itself is original. And that, I think, is actually pretty cool. The dig site. This one is again going back to Call of Duty Vanguard and its version of Shi No Numa. In that version, it introduced a whole new area, the dig site. And this is where you would find a pretty decent training spot, crafting table, and of course the pack-a-punch machine. And you also need to go here for the Easter egg and storyline implications. Martial arts zombie walk animation. Also with Shi No Numa, we got a whole new set of zombies, and we also got some new animations. If you take a close look at some of the walking zombies, it looks like they're walking in a kung fu pose. And because of that, it led a lot of people believe that the zombies still have somewhat of a memory of their previous lives. If these zombies can still do a martial arts pose and remember all that training, what else could they remember? And if you know Ascension, we'll eventually talk more about this when we get to Ascension. Now, I've also seen people say that this isn't really a martial arts zombie pose animation, that it's just what the Japanese zombies look like when they're not carrying weapons. So I'm not sure if it was intentional or not, but I'll leave that up to you to decide. The One. This is the musical Easter egg on the map. To activate it, you're going to want to head over to the comm room. And once inside, you want to interact with this telephone, where you'll hear this very creepy voice.
What? Are they gonna put a music Easter egg in every map now?
And that song that's playing is called The One. And it's very interesting because if you actually pay attention to the lyrics, you can tell that the song is written in the POV of a zombie. And the song talks about their cravings that they have as a zombie, but their wish for someone to kill them and end their suffering. Call of Duty Mobile Shi No Numa. When Call of Duty Mobile came out, it eventually decided to add zombies, and when it did, the map that it came with was Shi No Numa of all maps. And with the map, it gave you a bunch of new stuff. You had new radios, new bosses, new perks, such as Electric Cherry, and plenty of new weapons that the original Shi No Numa never had. So it was definitely a different experience. New Claw animation. Now this is obviously supposed to be Crawler, but there was a little bit of a typo. This is talking about the Crawler change from Verrucht to Shi No Numa. In Verrucht, the crawlers were mainly on their tummies, or like rubbing their stomach against the ground. They were not as upright as we see them nowadays, and that changed in Shi No Numa. With Shi No Numa, we got the crawlers, as you probably remember them, more upright and less on their tummy. Unused Perca-Cola models. Shi No Numa was actually going to do something really cool. They were going to have custom perk camos. Instead of the perks looking like how you normally see them, they would have had this swampy-like texture to them. But unfortunately, they never decided to put it in the map. And I believe the reason that they didn't do this was because they really wanted the perks to stand out and not blend in as much. Which I can see why they would do that, you know, kind of early on in Zombies, but to me, huge missed opportunity. And just to add on to this, because why not, the reason I believe that the perks don't show the price and instead show it on the actual perk machine is because they really couldn't afford to have any more text on the map. They were running well past their limits, and they really had to scale back all of the text on the map, so to help with that, they decided to put the price of the perks on the machine instead of having it displayed. Which was a really cool decision because I just think it looks cool. Peter's grave. We all know Peter. He is the hanging man in the spawn room. But it seems like in the iOS version of Shi No Numa, at some point, someone got him down and gave him a proper burial. In the iOS version, once you have all of the huts open, you will get a message that pops up and says, "All areas unlocked, now go find the grave." You then will get a shovel that will replace your knife, and eventually you will find Peter's grave, which you will have the option to dig, and once doing so, you will be rewarded with the Wonderwaff DG2. Okinawa Prefecture. In the OG Shi No Numa, we really don't have an exact location for where it takes place. We just know it takes place somewhere in the Empire of Japan. But in the Vanguard version of Shi No Numa, we do know that it takes place in the Okinawa Prefecture. So maybe, just maybe, that's where the original one also takes place. Really, all we know about the Rising Sun facility is that its construction began on April 10th of 1937. And we take a look at a map of Japanese territory around that time, you can get a pretty good idea of the Empire of Japan's territory. And narrowing it down to swampy environments and probably somewhere not close to mainland, Okinawa or some part closer to China would probably be the best bet. Group 935 and Division 9 work together. So originally, the Rising Sun facility, or Shi No Numa, was undertaken by Division 9. But on August 18th of 1940, as per Germany's request, the Japanese Imperial Army hands over the Rising Sun facility to Group 935, and Division 9 remains involved on the site. And if you know anything about World War II, on paper, Japan and Germany were allies, so in the zombie storyline, this would make a little sense for them to work together. But if you know actual World War II history, Germany and Japan were, I'm doing air quotes, allies. A lot of the times they were literally doing things that were like kind of fucking over the other one. They were not very good allies. Der Riese teasers. There were 2 teasers to the next DLC, Der Riese. The first one can be found in Spawn by activating all the radios and unlocking this secret message, where they reference the map directly.
Giant must remain at all costs. Repeat, Der Riese must remain safe at all costs.
The next is going to be a piece of paper that we can find downstairs that will say Die Glock, or the bell, and Der Riese, or the giant. So they weren't outright coming out and saying, hey, Der Riese is the next map, but there were some hints towards it. Animal noises. One thing I think Shi No Numa did really well at is sound design. You really feel like you're in a swamp of just pure death. And one of the ways that they did that was by having random animal noises around the map. And even though they're just animal noises, it's a little creepy and can be unsettling. Buildable Wonderwaff DG2. Freaking zombies and their buildables, man. I'll never get their just attachment to them. But in the Vanguard version of Shi No Numa, you could build the Wonderwaff. And really all you have to do is collect certain parts around the map by doing little tasks, and then eventually assembling it at the crafting table and getting, or I should say building, your Wonderwaff DG2 for free. Nikolai's wives. One thing that we do know about Nikolai is that he has had a lot of wives that have all died due to mysterious circumstances. I don't care how the newer zombies try to explain all that, like, oh, he was just in mourning, blah, blah, blah. Go Rod Crovey implications. No, OG Nikolai was absolutely crazy and killed a bunch of wives. That's more interesting. But saying that, in his character bio, we can get a little bit more information on a couple of his wives. In it, it reads, early in his career, Nikolai had quickly made his way up through the party ranks by killing the next man in line and by marrying politically. Ultimately, his aspirations all came crashing down after his fifth wife mysteriously died while cleaning his axe with her neck. Little did he know that she had been sleeping with a high-ranking party official on the side. This made Nikolai infamous, and his reputation spread quickly through the party. It was not long before Stalin himself had heard about Nikolai. More importantly, he feared Nikolai. As soon as the war started, our hero was dropped on the front lines and forgotten about. And in his bio, that mentions his fifth wife. So until he starts telling us more through his quotes, we can only assume that wives 1 through 4 also mysteriously died while sharpening axes with their neck. Fluffy's offspring. This is referring to a Black Ops 3 radio that talks about Shi No Numa, where Dr. Monty basically confirms a fan theory that we knew all along, that the reason we have a lot of hellhounds is because Fluffy was pregnant, and they're pretty angry.
Shi No Numa. Did I say that right? I've not really put the effort into learning Japanese. In some ways, that's where it really started for you guys. It's also where Fluffy returned, right? Well, when I say returned, I'm referring more to her offspring, her little pups. They grew big, didn't they? More importantly, they started showing signs of food aggression. Whoa, that's never good. Gotta say, I still prefer an angry dog to any kind of cat. I know it's wrong to generalize, but frankly, all cats are evil little shits.
911, I know when you're sleeping. So you remember from the 1 entry that this is what leads up to the music Easter egg. Well, the number that we supposedly dial on the phone is 911. It's an old rotary phone. Now it doesn't show it dialing 911, but if you listen carefully, you can tell that that's what it's dialing. Takeo betrayed by the Emperor. Okay, I just want to say this now. I know it's pronounced Takeo, but I've been pronouncing it Takeo for so long that that's just going to be his name. But this one is talking about how Takeo got acquired by Richtofen and became a test subject. Because like we talked about earlier, on paper, Germany and Japan were allies, so it kind of doesn't make too much sense that Group 935 would have a Japanese test subject. And that's where Division 9 and Group 935 come in. According to the official timeline, on November 5th, 1942, Takeo Masaki is dispatched by the Emperor to oversee the work of Group 935 and Division 9 at the Rising Sun facility. On June 15th, 1943, Takeo reports to the Emperor that the work being done at the Rising Sun facility is unacceptable. And on July 24th, 1943, on the orders of the Emperor, Takeo is taken prisoner by Group 935 and Division 9. He is then used as a test subject for experiments. So that's how it eventually got explained how Takeo got wrapped up in all this. He ended up getting betrayed by his own country. Now, interestingly enough, if we take a look at the Zombies art book that just recently dropped as I'm making this video, in it they describe the creation of the core characters like this. The first thought was a classic superhero team. Big, clear, sometimes clashing personalities stuck working together. Assembling the most unlikely of alliances, players would find themselves in control of a brash American grunt, a booze-soaked Russian trooper, and an honor-bound Japanese officer, and a sadistic German mad scientist. So definitely from the beginning, I don't think they were intending for the Emperor to betray Takeo, but that's how it eventually got written to make all this make sense. Save My Soul Whispers. Now, even though Verrückt is often cited as the creepiest zombies map, Shi No Numa, in my opinion, well, the World at War version, is definitely up there. Around the map, you can hear tons of eerie sounds, and some of that is this weird whispering, where if you pay close enough attention, you can kind of make out the words, "Save my soul." And that's not really the only thing you can hear. There are plenty of other whispers that you can kind of make out. The power switch cut content. Shi No Numa was originally planned to have a power switch, very similar to all the other maps. You flip it on and you can start buying things. But it was eventually cut. And I believe the reason for that was just because of how the map was laid out. There's no set path. You're in the middle and you can branch out different ways. So a power switch in this kind of setup really wouldn't work out too well, so they ultimately just decided to cut it. Richtofen's laugh. Heading over to the doctor's quarters, you can interact with this bookshelf, where you're going to hear Richtofen's crazed laughter. And this is said to be Richtofen acquiring his diary. You know, the whole reason we came to Shi No Numa. We talked about it much earlier in this video. Wonderwaff DG2 overloads the teleporter. This one is taking us to Black Ops 1's Shi No Numa, and in it we got a brand new radio. That actually helps explain how our group got from Der Riese to Kino der Toten. Completely different areas and completely different times. And in the radio, Richtofen says that the DG2 must have overloaded the teleporter.
Where are we?
A better question is...
When are we?
No! Where the hell is my vodka?
Yes, of course. The DG2 must have overloaded the teleporter, ripping space-time, backtracing us to the future! How wonderful!
There's my vodka. Thank you, Taki.
Oh, come on, Tax. Suck it up and walk it off.
Different Element 115 color. So Element 115 has changed a lot throughout the years, especially in color. In Shi No Numa, you can find the giant 115 rock that we talked about earlier, and it's glowing reddish orangish. Well, in the Origins intro, we get another peek at that 115 rock, but this time it's blue. Peter McCain downs the player. In the spawn room, the hanging man, Peter McCain, will pretty much end your run if you ever really interact with them. If you can somehow time a grenade just right to get his body on the floor, and then you walk over him, you are disrespecting a past future army soldier. And for that, he's gonna do this. Dempsey fought at the Battle of Peleliu. In the World Ore bios, Dempsey's has a section where it talks about his badassery. Dempsey was selected for this mission after he showed his true grit at the Battle of Peleliu. Remarkable though it may seem, his unit was captured during the early raids, before the main invasion, and he spent 2 weeks in a rat-infested bamboo cage submerged in malaria water. Well, that did not stop the tank. After he gnawed his way through the cage, he then gnawed his way through his captors armed with only a bobby pin and his Medal of Honor, which he keeps secreted in various body cavities, aka in his ass. Now, the Battle of Peleliu was fought in 1944, from September to November, and Dempsey really doesn't officially enter the storyline until the next year, August 31st, 1945, when he is chosen to lead the squad to go into Verrückt. Maxis created the ray gun. Now, off the top of your head, you might think that Porter created the ray gun, because once you upgrade it, it turns into the Porter's X2 ray gun. Well, the original ray gun, the unupgraded one, was actually created by Maxis, with a little help from Shi No Numa. If we head into Black Ops 1 and we check out some of the terminals, we can find an entry on the ray gun, where it says, prototype developed by Dr. Ludwig Maxis, Origin, Der Riese facility, based on designs seized from the Rising Sun facility at SNN. Powered by Element 115, Raygun works on microwave technology and discharges a burst of green plasma energy between 220 and 230 volts. second generation currently under development by H. Porter, to reduce excessive peripheral damage. So thanks to the work being done at the Rising Sun facility, or Shi No Numa, we eventually got the ray gun. Red Eye Zombies. This is talking about Vanguard zombies, and how the eyes are glowing red, instead of the usual other colors that we see like orange or blue, or yellow. Even though I kind of think it's like a mixture between yellow and orange. But there is a reason for the red eyes in Vanguard zombies. It's because lore-wise, the zombies are being controlled, and they're being controlled by the cortifex of the Deathless, and not Samantha or Richtofen. Mr. Peak's Easter egg. This is talking about an Easter egg in the Vanguard version of Shi No Numa. And in order to do this, you have to complete a little bit of the story quest, and then all you have to do is find 3 different parts. A pile of loot will drop containing points and a fire sale. Richtofen enjoys death. So this could be talking about 2 things. 1, numerous of Richtofen's quotes that just made everybody fall in love with him in World of War. Or 2, sections of his bio. In his bio, it reads, all through his career, Richtofen has been at the forefront of torture and information extraction research. Richtofen is an incurable sociopath and sees no moral distinction between natural death and murder. The victim is the victim, regardless of how the demise manifests itself. Dr. Richtofen has a collection of stuffed animals, most of them posed in positions of terror at the instance of their death. Bags of dead bodies. I believe this one is taking us back to Vanguard zombies. So remember in the original World at War Shi No Numa, you can go to the bookshelf and get Richtofen's creepy laugh. Well, in Vanguard zombies, that's not a part of the lore. So instead of having the bookshelf with Richtofen's diary, they just replaced it with lots of dead bodies. Children singing nursery rhymes. This is talking about the creepy as hell nursery rhyme that you can hear in Shi No Numa and also on Derice. In Shi No Numa, if you head back here to the fishing huts and you listen carefully, you can hear the creepiest song ever. Now this is a real song. It's a traditional 17th century French children's nursery rhyme. In English, it's called Let's Walk in the Woods. The lyrics are roughly like this. Let's walk in the woods while the wolf is not there. If the wolf was here, he would eat us. But since he's not, he won't eat us. Wolf, are you there? Do you hear us? What are you doing? I'm putting on my shirt. And that would kind of keep going on until the wolf puts on all of his clothes. And then when the wolf is fully dressed, he yells, I'm taking my rifle and I'm coming. And then he would begin to chase the children. Kind of like a duck duck goose means ring around the rosy. Normally it's not creepy whatsoever, but when you put it in zombies and you add some effects to it, it becomes creepy as all hell. Crying Division 9 test subjects. Around Shi No Numa, you can also hear some women crying. And this is very weird because I highly doubt any women were here because they wanted to be. They were most likely here because they were being used as test subjects and ultimately met a very deadly end. So because of what they went through, their spirits probably still wander this area, and every now and then you can hear them crying out for help. Intro cutscene on Call of Duty Mobile. Of course, this is just talking about the intro cutscene for Call of Duty Mobile's version of Shi No Numa. It features a comic-style intro and a couple familiar faces. I was having a hard time finding a just janked up version of this. Every video I found was just playing a little bit of the intro and then they would just skip right to the game. So you can have this quick couple second clip.
Target in sight. Our team is surrounded by unknown enemies. Need backup.
You'd hardly know to look at it now, but our best intel says it was a secret research institute. The previous investigation team was lost. Do not be cocky. Be careful.
The power will destroy us all. This is a piece of chalk writing that you can find kind of outside the map that you really would just never see when you are regularly playing the game. And it's kind of ambiguous as to what this means, but the general consensus is that the things that Group 935 and Division 9 are messing with will eventually lead to Earth's destruction. And whoever scribbled that on the wall was kind of right, because it totally did. Alistair Rhodes' Dark Aether. Alistair Rhodes was a character in the Chaos story from Black Ops 4, and the Dark Aether is like the main storyline that we have nowadays. And in Shi No Numa, we got this quote from Kraft, where he says Rhodes wrote about different objects of power that he called Sentinel artifacts, but I was never able to find out exactly what they were, which essentially combined the two storylines, making sure that the Chaos story never truly died. Cornelius Purnell Radio. So we kind of talked about this a little bit earlier in the video, but to activate this radio in the Shi No Numa spawn, you're going to want to activate all of the radios in spawn, and upon activating the third one, this radio will start playing.
R-4808N 371406 115 4840.
I hope you're receiving this transmission, Peter. If you are not, then all is already lost. You must know by now that we failed to contain the asylum, and that we had to move the experiment here. Location. The numbers will guide you. The giant must remain at all costs. Repeat, Der Reese must remain safe at all costs. The DG2 experiments continue. Might be our only advantage now. Find Dr. Vitov and Dr. Max's. Only they may know what's going on. The use of 115 is dangerous at best. I'm not sure how long we can continue here. We've lost most of our best people. I hope you get this. I hope it hasn't happened there too. But I'm almost out of hope.
6054 06.96 101 55 44.94.
And in it, Cornelius Purnell, who was Peter's handler, says that things have gone foobar. We lost the asylum and the giant must not fall. And the two set of numbers that you hear at the beginning and at the end are a set of coordinates for Area 51 and Tunguska. iOS Underground Lab. In the mobile version of Shi No Numa, you can do a little Easter egg that opens up a new section of the map, and in it, you can find something very familiar. You can find a whole new lab section that looks eerily similar to Zetsubo no Shima. Zetsubo no Shima was another one of Division 9's secret little experimenty places. So this is a pretty cool Easter egg and throwback. They're not saying that Zetsubo no Shima is at Shi No Numa, but they're both Division 9 sites, and it's a pretty cool little throwback Easter egg. Verrucht Soldier Radio. This one is talking about the radio that you can find in the storage hut. That, once activated, plays audio from the Verrucht trailer. Takeo cut off kitten tails. So you might think Takeo might be the most sane out of the group, but once you read his bio, you very quickly learn that no, he's also crazy just like the rest of them. In his bio it reads, our hero was born into wealth. His family dynasty dates back several centuries, and throughout that time they have been highly decorated samurai and bushi. Well, Takeo is no exception to this celebrated bloodline. Even when the family first saw the young, life-filled 5-year-old Takeo playing in the street with his katana and slicing the tails off terrified kittens, it was obvious he was destined to bring honor to the Masaki name. So after reading all these bios, you can definitely tell that they wanted all of these main characters to be not sane individuals. Shi No Numa notes and posters. Littered around Shi No Numa, we can find plenty of little things to read. One of them is a note in the doctor's quarters right next to the perk that reads, "Might be powering HARP, but it comes with a risk. May considering," and that's all we got. And if you know anything about Black Ops 2, you know that Ted eventually starts to talk about HARP and how the gay frogs are controlling the weather, or at least that's what Alex Jones told me. Some other things that we can find on the walls are some posters that have to deal with the human body. This one reads, "The arm is attached to the body by the shoulders. Sometimes you can rip them off the body with enough force." This one reads, "Skull of the Homo sapien. This is a bony structure that is found in most animals." So with all these little posters about human bodies and pulling things out with enough force, you can probably get an even better idea of some of the horrific things that were going on here. Shi No Numa isn't real. This is an old school theory that the community used to help explain zombies. Before we really had much of a storyline, you kinda had to just do with what you had. And this theory sprouted up around the time of Shi No Numa and then would eventually get expanded on later on down the line. But it all starts with the Shi No Numa music Easter egg. And once you activate it, you hear that creepy voice say, "I know when you're sleeping." And that is what kicked it all off. People started pointing out that in the song in Verrucht, Lullaby for a Dead Man, there is a lyric that says the exact same thing. "I know when you're sleeping, I know the things you're dreaming, and I know you will never give up and die." So this started the theory that none of this is all happening and we're all in some sort of dreamlike sequence. That would help explain how people are jumping from map to map with no real explanation, why there's an endless amount of zombies and there's no outside help. There was even one theory that said Shi No Numa is like a fairy tale, and they compared the Hellhounds to the Big Bad Wolf, and that the song The One was interpreted as someone being trapped inside of this unreal environment. Now, this theory that Shi No Numa is all like a dream, a matrix, or whatever you wish to call it, would eventually die out as we got more and more zombie storyline information. But at the time, when you didn't really have much to go off of, like I said, you had to make do with what you had. Peter McCain's left arm. This was one of the earliest and biggest theories back in OG zombie days. Once people loaded up Shi No Numa, they would of course immediately notice the hanging man, and the fact that he's missing one of his arms. This made people go back to Verrucht and look at the power switch and put two and two together. The fact that there's a arm on the power switch in Verrucht, and that this guy on Shi No Numa is definitely missing an arm, made people theorize that this man lost his arm in Verrucht. And with the radio that we have directed at Peter, people naturally assumed that this man was Peter McCain, who lost his arm in Verrucht and would meet his tragic fate at Shi No Numa. Now, this was not really confirmed for a while, but it was a very popular and accepted theory. The only thing people never understood was, how exactly did Peter lose that arm? All we know for sure is that on September 3rd, 1945, an outbreak occurred at the asylum, and Peter managed to escape but lost his left forearm. We don't know if a zombie bit it off, if some accident happened while he was turning on power, if he did get bit on the hand and then chopped it off himself. All we know is that he lost it. So either he got bit and, not wanting to end up like Smokey and Banana, chopped his arm off and bandaged it up the best he could and headed to Shi No Numa. In Shi No Numa, remember the poster we saw on the wall about taking an arm off? Maybe that was a subtle, slight hint to the fact that Peter ended up taking his own arm off. Whatever the reason that he had for taking it off, all we really know is that this was one of the earliest and coolest theories out there. Dr. Monty hates cats. I'm not sure why this one's so far down here, but this is just talking about the Black Ops 3 Shi No Numa radio where Dr. Monty goes on his little, "Oh, I'm a god, but woe is me," and just ends up saying he's more of a dog person, so we'll just go to the next one. We've already talked about it. Tunguska. This is talking about some writing that you can find that's kind of hidden in Shi No Numa, and you really wouldn't know it's ever here, and that is Tunguska. Tunguska was another one of those early zombie theories that people immediately started writing stories about. In real life, Tunguska is the largest impact event ever recorded in Earth's history. On June 30th, 1908, out in the remote forest of Siberia, Russia, a giant-ass meteor would come crashing down, the blast would equal to about 10 to 15 megatons of TNT. So when we take the Tunguska event in real life and translate it into zombies, it's basically one of the whole reasons that 115 is here. Or I should say the whole reason like Group 935 and all these other people start creating zombies. Because the Tunguska event was actually 115. And because of one meteor out in the middle of bumfuck nowhere, we get the entire zombie storyline. GK Nova 6 jingle. This is taking us back to Vanguard again. In Vanguard, if you head to the comms room and you chill next to these radios, you'll hear this. Which is actually a reference to the promotion for Black Ops 1. During the lead up to Black Ops 1, they did this whole GK Nova 6 thing that had tons of ciphers being sent out and people going to mysterious websites, all for us to eventually get some videos, and one of them was this. So I will hand it to Vanguard. It is pretty cool that they're shouting out one of the OG games. Character's bio hidden message. This one I still am like mad that it took us this long to figure out, and even then we didn't even figure out, but this is talking about the World at War character bios. And if you take the first letter of all the sentences, it eventually spells out this. The Doctor wants the ultimate power, bastard. A huge foreshadow to the fact that Richtofen wants to be in control of all the zombies. Now this would remain hidden all the way until like 2016. And even then, we didn't solve it. We basically got thrown it by Jason Blundell. Now I actually have seen some people say that this was solved back in the day, but just never received the traction. So maybe it was, but mainstream zombies never solved it for like 7 years. And it's one of the simplest and easiest Easter eggs out there. So it really makes you think, what else have we missed? Call the Dead teaser. So this, in my opinion, is either talking about one of two things. One, on the Call the Dead comic book loading screen, if you look in the top left, you can see an image of Ascension's loading screen. And that was the previous map. And in the top right, you can see some green leaves. Up until this point, Shi No Numa was really the only map that had a lot of greenery in it. So this led to a lot of theories and speculation that Shi No Numa might have something to do with the next map. Now, of course, this wasn't true and we ended up getting Shangri-La, but during Call of the Dead's run, that was a very popular theory that was going around. The other thing that this could be mentioning is all of the references to Tunguska in Shi No Numa. Not only do you have the hidden wall writing, but you also have the coordinates in the radio, both talking about Tunguska, which we eventually learn is basically where Call of the Dead takes place. So was Shi No Numa quite possibly referencing Call of the Dead all this time? Quite possibly, yeah, because of what we eventually got in Doris, but we'll talk about that one in the next Iceberg. Shi No Numa iOS boss fights. For the mobile version of Shi No Numa, if you load it up in raid mode, you will have to survive until a specific round, before you eventually go on to fight one of the bosses. And the boss could either be the Abomination or the Juboko. That's probably not how you pronounce it, I'm an idiot. Aliens in Shi No Numa. This is one of those old school theories that was used to explain things we just didn't know about in zombies yet. And this one was all about aliens being the reason for all of this. And the reason that this all kind of kicked off was because of the giant 115 rock in Shi No Numa. At the time this map released, we really didn't know what that was. We just knew it was a giant ass meteor. So a lot of people speculated that it had something to do with aliens. And maybe that the electricity coming from the rock is what's reviving the zombies. And people would go on to point out that through random radios around the map, some that I showed you guys earlier, people could faintly hear some voices. And they compared those voices to the aliens from Fallout 3 Mothership Zeta DLC. And the fact that in the radio in Spawn, you get the coordinates for Area 51, which is known to be a hotbed of alien activity, this only added more fuel to the fire that aliens are somehow involved. Some people even went as far as to say that the comm room, you know, some of the voices you can hear from the radio there, that was a comm room specifically to talk to alien life. and that is one of the reasons for the Shi No Numa facility. Now, I hate having to say this like a million times, but you have to remember, the storyline really began at Shi No Numa, and they weren't 100% on everything just quite yet. And they were throwing out bits and pieces of information for us to get attached to, but we really didn't have much, so people had to do what they could to fill in some of the blanks. And honestly, I can see how aliens would be a pretty good explanation for a lot of this. I mean, hell, you have a fucking ray gun in the game. What more do you expect? So that is going to be today's video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and if you did, make sure to check out my previous ones on Nocturne, Toten, and Verrucht, and subscribe because Darius is next, and we're not stopping until we do almost every single zombies map, so you're going to want to hit the bell notifications to get notified when those come out. That's all I got for you guys today. Leave.